Deep in the depths of the Steam Deck kernel, a brand new mysterious piece of hardware by Valve has shown up, and so far it's not like anything Valve has released before. So what is this so-called Valve Fremont? We'll talk about that. But before that, if you like this video or any other video I've made on this channel, please like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends. Spreading the gospel of high-tech low-life really helps me in the YouTube algorithm, and it lets the algorithm know that you want more. And while you're at it, why don't you check out my brand new podcast, Off the Console. It's a podcast started by Gardner Bryant, Games Revealed, and I. Yes, we have a YouTube channel with full podcast episodes and clips, but we're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to check it out and like and subscribe if you like our podcast. And one more thing, not only will I be a presenter at the Steam Deck HQ Awards, but I've also apparently been nominated for Best Content Creator. For those not in the know, this is a Steam Deck specific award show hosted by Steam Deck HQ. Community voting is now up for community voted awards, so check it out. No one really knows what this Valve Fremont is, except for the good people at Valve. But information surrounding this new Valve Fremont console has been data mined from the Steam Deck kernel, courtesy of Reddit user CoolBeho3k. He discovered in the kernel that there's a new device that's being tested for HDMI CEC function. HDMI CEC allows you to essentially control certain TV functions with whatever device is plugged in. Like for example, if you were to turn your PS5 on, then it would turn your TV on and switch to that channel immediately if your TV is compatible. The Steam Deck has this capability when plugged into a TV via Valve's official dock. But this one is a little different. As you can see here, this isn't Valve's official GitHub or repo or whatever, but this right here is a repo that mirrors Valve's official changes. This one being labeled CEC endpoint for Fremont. And there's a lot of very interesting stuff here. First and foremost is the mention of an AMD Lilac and the mention of a Google Dexy. What could these all mean? Well, let's first talk about this mysterious AMD Lilac. The mysterious AMD Lilac is a platform that Valve seems to be developing on, and it seems to run an AMD 8540U. There's no real indication that this is going to be the APU they're using, but we're going to go with it because we don't have any other leads. This AMD Ryzen 5 8540U isn't some mysterious processor that's never been used before. It's in plenty of different laptops. It's a 6-core 12-thread CPU. It features Radeon 740M graphics with 4 cores in it. This is supposedly the same graphics processor that's featured in the ROG Ally Z1. No, not the Z1 Extreme, the much cheaper and worse Z1 unit. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this doesn't sound like it inspires confidence. But if these Geekbench scores are to be believed, then, well, let's just say we'll be proven wrong. Now we're gonna look at some Geekbench scores. As you can see here, this is my own score for my own personal Steam Deck OLED. Given it has the lowest amount of cores and the lowest clock speeds, this result isn't super surprising for the Steam Deck OLED compared to the others. The Fremont is nearly double the performance of the Steam Deck OLED in every facet. But let's look at the ROG Ally X, because this is where things get a little interesting, see. The ROG Ally X actually beats the Fremont in multi-core score. But this is more due to the fact that the ROG Ally literally has 2 more physical cores. But in terms of single core usage, the Ally X actually loses to the so-called Fremont machine. CPU performance is very important for a number of different productivity related tasks. But when it comes to gaming though, CPU performance isn't the end all be all. It is very important for, say, PS3 emulation, and it's also important for games like City Skylines 2, where CPU performance is everything. But when it comes to gaming, 99% of the time, it's the GPU scores that matter the most. And it just so happens that they have a Geekbench score for GPU as well. Whoever tested out the Fremont decided to pick OpenCL as the API instead of Vulkan. And as such, there is no apples to apples with the Steam Deck, as for whatever reason, the OpenCL test doesn't work on the Steam Deck. And there are no results either. So we're gonna look at the ROG Ally X once again. Quite literally over double the score, and I picked out the best OpenCL score that an ROG Ally has ever achieved. And the ROG Ally X with its Z1 Extreme can hit double the performance of the Steam Deck at maximum power. And of course, word has it the Fremont is supposed to be a sort of home console, a set-top box of sorts if you will. So there's no real concern for battery life. You'll always be able to run this at full power without concern for battery life. It is proven to be a very powerful piece of hardware. And from my own estimations, it's encroaching on NVIDIA GTX 1080 Ti performance. And compared to all of those other mini PCs that you might see someone like ETA Prime review, it seems like it's going to be better than all of those. Or at least all of those without a dedicated GPU inside it, because that'll be a different story. So we all kind of expected a set-top box to be more powerful than the Steam Deck. I mean, there's no concern for battery life, right? And also, yes, we used a lot of Geekbench because that's our only real performance metric, because this isn't even a device that's been announced. But you have to remember, Geekbench is a synthetic benchmark. It's not always accurate to real-world usage, and while it is a useful tool for gauging the differences between different hardwares, it's not always indicative of if it's gonna play a game well. If you want to see real benchmarks, you gotta wait till people start actually getting their hands on this and just testing out the performance. But there's a more interesting software implication. See, this mentions something called Google Dexy. I don't know what that is, but it's supposed to be using similar hardware to all of the devices running ChromeOS at the moment. Now, we don't know what Google or Valve is doing with this. We don't know what the plan is or even how the software is going to be implemented. There's a lot of wild mass guessing at this point. But OP has a theory that the Valve Fremont might actually be running ChromeOS instead of SteamOS. Of course, with the Steam client running over top of it, naturally. But one might ask, why though? Because I mean, they have SteamOS. They operate and update SteamOS. They could just make a version of SteamOS that works on this so-called Fremont unit, right? They don't have to resort to using ChromeOS, right? There's even different distros like Bazite, which you can use to install on just general hardware. Why ChromeOS instead of their own SteamOS? Our good friend the Redditor, the source of all this information, suspects that Valve wants to run ChromeOS to gain access to Android TV apps and Android apps in general. Stuff like Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, and much, much more. It's a potential way to get all of these media apps without having to convince all of these guys like Netflix and whatnot to build a version of their app that goes on the Steam store. It's kind of a genius move, and ChromeOS can run the desktop version of Steam as well. So essentially what you get is Steam, but instead of being built on Arch Linux, it's built on ChromeOS, which also means you get support for Android apps, which quite frankly is insane. The Valve Fremont being discovered around this time is very interesting given that, well, we're seeing Valve expand even further. We have leaks of Valve's Deckard, and the controllers are supposed to go with a Deckard, and a leaked design for the Steam controller too. And I'm willing to bet that if you buy the Fremont, it'll come with a Steam controller too. I mean, why wouldn't they? There's also new brand guidelines for Steam as well, and new graphics to put on your new product boxes, like handhelds that might come with SteamOS? Yeah, it might come with SteamOS. And there are controllers that have Steam input compatibility with new features as well, kind of like the Hori controller. That's crazy. But there are additional concerns, especially where Microsoft and Sony are concerned, because both of them publish games on Steam, on PC, and to see Valve encroach on their territory, the living room, is scary. Is this as powerful as a PS5 Pro? As it is, probably not, but Valve could ship a more powerful box, more powerful than what we have right now, because this is just tentative hardware. But will Sony take drastic action? Will Sony just stop publishing games on Steam? Will they stop porting their games to PC altogether? Because I hope not. That would suck, because more often than not, Sony games tend to be quite optimized, and they tend to be some of the better PC ports, except for like The Last of Us Part 1. If you like this video, please press the like button and check out our other videos, and if you like those other videos as well, be sure to press the subscribe button and share the good gospel of high-tech lowlife with your friends. Furthermore, we have a community Discord for enlightened individuals such as you. And if you wish to further support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page. Links in the description.